This is breaking news.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think we have reached an end to the search of the Gilgo house. We're going to be pulling out shortly. First and foremost, I want to thank members, the men and women of the Suffolk County Crime Lab. That was very difficult, painstaking work that they accomplished, and they did a tremendous job. I also want to thank, of course, our partners with the Suffolk County Police Department, New York State Police, Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, and FBI, all of whom participated in one way or the other with regard to the search. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say. But I'm more than willing to take questions. Anybody have questions?
Is there any indication that any woman was killed here in the house?
So there's no. I don't believe at this time that we can say one way or the other. Either evidence does not point either one way or the other. I would say that we have obtained a massive amount of material, all of which has to be cataloged and analyzed, and it's going to take quite some time.
So just a quick follow-up. If a victim's DNA turned up on material in the house, would that indicate perhaps that she was killed here?
So I'm not going to talk about what ifs, but with regard to what, if anything, was recovered, it's not like TV. It's going to be a while for the analysts to do their job. Now it goes from here to trace section, and then to if appropriate, the DNA section. So that's a process.
Yesterday, the police commissioner said that the search was fruitful. Can you elaborate on any of the potential evidence taken from here?
I think what he's referring to is the amount of evidence, which is quite a lot, and now it's up to the job of the task force to go through that evidence, and that's a process. And we need to do that process, but we won't know exactly what we have for quite some time, because just given the sheer volume of evidence that was taken.
One of the other news outlets, of course, rose footage of what looked like burnt bones in the backyard. Could you share anything?
I can tell you that there was ground piercing. Technology used in the backyard, and specifically there was nothing of note taken from the backyard as far as remains. There is a whole entire trace analysis that we have to go through with the house with regard to hair fibers, DNA, blood, which we'll just have to await the results on. The house in general was cluttered, and there were a lot of guns taken from the house. The defendant had 92 handgun permits. In addition to handguns, he had quite a few long guns as well.
Are there any other properties that you'll be searching?
There's a number of locations which we've searched, but we'll keep that to ourselves for now.
This has been entered into a national database. The suspect's DNA likely was entered into a national database, state database. Is there any hit with any other unsolved case so far?
So, with regard to state and national DNA databases, there are specific rules with that under New York and federal law. Usually that only happens when you have a person is convicted of a crime. As far as specifically the database, his DNA has not been entered in that database.
What among the evidence really jumps out? I mean, it's not just something that just stands out among all the rest. What stands out?
We're going to wait. I mean, I think everyone wanted that singular piece of evidence, but we're going to wait until we see all the evidence. But I don't think there's one thing that really jumps out at us at this juncture.
Is there a mattress found in the vault?
I'm sorry?
Is there any indication from the evidence of other victims?
Our investigation focused on the Gilgo 4. We're going to continue to investigate that case. and prepare that case for trial. And we have our investigation now has become public, obviously, and also it's broadened. So we're going to look at the other instances where bodies were recovered in that area as well.
So is forensic testing continuing on Maureen Bernard Barnes, and who is conducting it, and what do you know?
Investigation is continuing with regard to Maureen Brainerd Barnes, as well as other aspects of the case, and that's being done in the grand jury or through the grand jury process. So I can't talk about that more than that.
Is that being forensically looked at in a more sophisticated
It's being there is testing going on with regard to the hairs that were mentioned in the bail letter.
Just to
there
clarify,
anything
he's
else
not
found in the
convicted
vault?
yet. He's not convicted yet. So to clarify, are you not allowed to put his DNA into databases until after a conviction?
Under New York State law, that's correct.
Are you any closer to filing charges in that fourth case?
We're working towards that, and once we're once our investigation is continuing.
Can you tell us what else was found inside the vault besides guns? Anything leading to belief of criminal activity inside?
The house could be categorized as cluttered, so there is a great deal of stuff that was recovered. So we're just going to have to go through it, but it's the list of items is quite large.
inside the vault or inside the house in general? In other words, was there anything besides the firearms found inside?
I'm not going to specifically talk about where everything was recovered in the house until all of the pictures and the reports have been gone over.
DA, I need
Was
to.
the storage area or did people actually enter it?
It was a large enough area for people to enter, but like the rest of the house, it was cluttered.
Would
I
you
need to
qualify it as
clarify
like a
something.
hoarder situation? Was it, how cluttered was it?
It was a cluttered. There was a lot of of just boxes and it was a very cluttered, I would say, environment.
DA, I need to clarify something, please. Because he's not convicted, can you not check his DNA against the 6 other people found along Ocean Parkway?
I didn't say that.
That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, you asked me about the database. The
Okay.
database is national, and that has I am not the members of our task force are not the guardians of that database. But with what we can do with regard to our own investigation is completely different. So one doesn't necessarily have to do with the other. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I came in a little late. Were any human remains found?
No. Well, what I would say is we're still going over the trace evidence, but they were asking about with regard to the excavation in the back if there were any large items of evidence recovered, and the answer to that question is no.
Was there any evidence in the backyard of things being
Or an
burned?
alleged crime scene?
I'm sorry?
Do you consider this home a crime scene or an alleged crime scene at this point?
I consider this a home in which we execute a search warrant.
Was there any evidence in the backyard of things being burned?
I can't specifically say one way or the other.
Can you tell us what led up to the decision then to excavate? Was there any tangible cause, or was it routine?
So there was ground technology that was able to see through the ground, and there were a number of disturbances that were found in the ground. But until you dig it up, you don't know what it is.
What do you mean by how would you explain?
Like a disturbance could be like a cistern or a branch or
Solid object?
a bicycle, anything that's buried under the ground. You can see the impression of it, but you don't necessarily know what it is until you dig it up.
And then where does the investigation stand with the number of sex workers who now say they were contacted by Hero?
So when we started our investigation, we did it through the grand jury. That investigation was we wanted to maintain the secrecy of the grand jury investigation. Obviously, that now that there's been an arrest, it's become public. So we are interviewing a great many people.
Is there a number more than 2 at this point who have said that he contacted?
We're interviewing a great many people, but we're going to keep what our conversations, what if any conversations we have with our witnesses between us and the witnesses.
There's
How do
been
you
a-
clarify what year these witnesses are coming from different states?
I'm sorry?
Are these witnesses coming from different states?
I don't think that this investigation is limited to New York State, certainly.
Regarding the Chevy avalanche, you have often spoken about March 14, 2022, as being the watershed moment. You were able to identify him as a suspect. There's been a lot of talk in the last 12 days about clues missed early on, like this car wasn't looked at. I mean, can you explain why that may have happened?
So I think we laid it out pretty extensively in our bail letter. For us, for our task force, our task force started February 1st, 2022. 6 weeks later, we had identified this individual as a target, and we talked about a number of factors which allowed us to do that. The hairs that we spoke about, the 5 hairs of note with regard to the bodies, those were recovered shortly after the bodies were recovered in December of 2010. With regard to the phone evidence, that work was done and completed by the FBI in early 2012, and and with regard to the avalanche, that information was made available shortly after the disappearance of Amber Costello. But again, when you look at everything, that is three items that are in and amongst thousands of items. So I think retrospectively, it's kind of simple to look at, but when you're looking at everything, all the evidence at once, it's an enormous undertaking, and that's why to guarantee success, you bring in really talented investigators from a whole bunch of different agencies. You use the resources of those agencies, and you work together on a daily basis.
But the people in this neighborhood who say it was more than a year, so March of 2022, you made a point of saying that in court. The people we interview in the neighborhood who say, well, okay, it was a year, more than a year, and then he's living here all that time. What do you say to the residents?
Well, I'm saying to the residents that a 13-year-old cold case doesn't get solved in a matter of weeks or days. The DNA evidence in and of itself was a very lengthy, arduous process, which required the cooperation of a number of agencies, and unfortunately these things take time. Also, the grand jury process in New York State, in order to charge somebody, you need to charge them, and you need to, in a case of this nature, with the different moving parts, you need to go into the grand jury, and unfortunately that doesn't happen overnight.
Was there a mattress today?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, was there a mattress found in the vault?
There were a number of items of evidence, but I'm not going to specifically say where any one item of evidence was found in the house.
Were guns returned to the home today?
No guns were returned to the home. To my knowledge, we all of the guns that were recovered, and we're talking about 283 about approximately 279 weapons were recovered. They're being categorized. Some may not be complete weapons. Some may not be able to be defined as a weapon under New York State law. But suffice to say, there was quite a few weapons found in the house.
What's preventing you right now from bringing charges in the fourth Gilgo case?
The investigation hasn't been concluded.
Have you spoken to the family? Are you aware if they're going to come home once the investigation?
So we informed the family. Obviously, they're represented by counsel. So we've spoken to counsel.
And they intend to return to them?
That would be.
Would they be allowed to?
That would be a question for their counsel.
Will they be allowed to?
Once we've withdrawn.
A lot of people have asked about the family. Could they have known anything? Do you have any indication at this point that they had any awareness of this?
There's no indication, specifically that they had knowledge. And as we said in our bail letter, during the commission of the 3 latter murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Wardeman, and Amber Costello, they specifically were out of the state and traveling during the time of those 3 victims' disappearance.
What struck you as circumstantially interesting or bizarre even about the stuff that you dug up, or the house itself? I mean, what stood out to you about this that might, in a sense, reveal something in the character of the alleged?
I don't. as prosecutors and investigators, we don't really deal in like feelings or we deal in facts. So what we've done is we've acquired a lot of information. So what we're going to do now is what we've been doing all along is we're going to work with our partners. We're going to go through that material and we're going to see what, if any, way it fits into the case.
About how many pieces of evidence was it?
Oh God, it's a tremendous amount of information that was I'll say this, a tremendous amount of information that was derived in conjunction with the searches incident to arrest.
Was there anything pertinent found in the storage unit?
I'm sorry?
Was there anything pertinent found in the storage unit?
Again, we're going, once we complete the process, we're going to we're going to have further word with regard to that. But what you have to understand is we were looking for tangible items of evidence as well as trace evidence, including blood and DNA and hair fibers and the like. And when you talk about something like that, that is a process that it takes a while for that process to be analyzed by the experts. So that's going to take a while.
Have you ruled out the possibility that the murders occurred here? Have you ruled out that?
We haven't ruled in or ruled out anything with regard to that.
Did you find any trophies?
That means that maybe there was human remains or something in the house, since everything is so clear. Maybe there was some blood droppings.
Well, as I said, that we look for trace evidence, and that we have that is a process that is a scientific process that is done in a lab, and we just haven't had the time to go through that process. So it's incomplete. So you can't say anything more than it's incomplete.
Did you find anything that would be characterized?
Were all of them related to firearms, or was there another type of weapon?
We're talking. I'm specifically talking about what would commonly be referred to as a firearm.
There's no other strange weapon.
No, and the only reason why I sort of hedge with that is because under New York state law, like a black powder, what the public would say that's a gun. Well, under New York state law, that might not necessarily qualify as a weapon, or under federal law certainly. I have nothing to provide with regard to the brother's house in South Carolina. I have no information. I have no comment with regard to what's going on in South Carolina. It's not my jurisdiction.
Are you done with the search?
We are for all intents and purposes done with the search.
When is all this completed? Yeah,
Very soon.
Okay.
That's we're going to rely on the Suffolk County Crime Lab they're going to do it, withdraw at a time that they deem appropriate. But as far as the search of the house, for all intents and purposes, that has been concluded.
And were the floorboards removed at any point?
I'm not going to get into the specifics with regard to the search, but we were looking for trace evidence.
Is that for August 1st?
I'm sorry?
Is that what we can expect from them in court next, August 1st?
Correct.
And what can we expect at that court date? Can we learn more about the evidence right now?
We're going to be, that's just the first conference after the arraignment. So just a typical court conference. We're going to talk about discovery, providing the voluminous discovery in this case. That process is going to start. As a matter of right, defendant has a right to a bail hearing. So we'll see what happens with regard to that.
Has any of the evidence you discovered at the house led you to a theory on the manner of death?
Other than what we've said at the time of arraignment, no. And the cause of death with regard to the three victims has been categorized as homicidal violence.
Did you find any trophies? You had spoken about potentially looking for trophies.
We're not going to specifically talk about specific items of evidence until everything's been cataloged and gone over. As we said, there is quite a lot of stuff.
Did anything discovered at the property lead your agents to feel emotionally moved or psychologically, shifted?
I think that we have a job to do, and but we're also human beings. But I think that I would commend all of the examiners for their professionalism.
Is it accurate to say the public, we may never know if he's guilty how he killed them because it's been so long that went by?
I think we have to let the process work out.
I'm sorry, could you tell me, is there going to be a search by Gilgo Beach when you're at Ocean Parkway? Anything
happening over there?
So, you know, we don't announce our searches before we do them, so we just can't make a comment as to, you know, specific areas, if any, to be searched. All right?
Where was this vault in the home, and was it sort of thing that you could walk into?
It was big enough to walk into, and it was in the basement. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This has been breaking news.